This, in the soft-lit salons of a European capital, where chandeliers hum like patient witnesses and crystal glasses clink with the arrogance of immunity, history often turns not on gunfire, but on invitation. These rooms are engineered to soothe. Velvet chairs absorb dissent. Polished marble reflects only what is meant to be seen. Here, power does not shout. It leans in close and whispers. And those who move through these spaces believe, sincerely, that the rules which govern ordinary lives do not apply within their walls. It is the late 2000s, a decade defined by tightening sanctions and loosening morals, a season when Tehran's reach extends not through armies, but through invisible arteries into boardrooms, hotels, cultural foundations, and diplomatic receptions scattered across the continent. Influence no longer arrives in uniform. It arrives in tailored suits, in patronage, in donations that smell faintly of legitimacy. This is where money launders ideology clean. This is where violence is abstracted into spreadsheets. This is where romance can be weaponized. The target is a man who believes himself untouchable. In public, he is everything Europe prefers his villains not to be. Charming, multilingual, impeccably dressed, a fixture at embassy dinners, a patron of the arts, a donor to humanitarian causes whose brochures feature children, violins, and carefully worded missions of peace. Behind the curtain, he is Iran's top intelligence facilitator in Europe, an architect of access, a broker of secrets, a spider at the center of a web spun from front companies, shell organizations, and cultural exchanges designed to obscure rather than reveal. To his admirers, he is a diplomat. To his handlers in Tehran, he is a master operator. To the victims of the networks he sustains, he is something else entirely, an enabler of slaughter who never has to see the blood. His dinners are legendary, his tables are long, his guest lists are curated with the precision of a watchmaker. Politicians, academics, financiers, artists, each chosen not for loyalty, but for proximity to power. His charm is not spontaneous, it is rehearsed. His laughter is calibrated. His appetite for admiration, for relevance, for control is vast. And most dangerously, it is indulgent. The premise of the operation designed to stop him is obscene in its simplicity. No bullets, no explosions, no martyrs. Disruption without elimination. A romantic dinner becomes a clinical ambush. Beauty becomes a blade. Sanctuary becomes a cage. The objective is not to kill the man. Killing him would create noise, martyrdom, replacement, another head grown in place of the severed one. Instead, the goal is to hollow him out, to let him live long enough to watch everything he built collapse inward. Across borders and back channels, a small team within the Mossad calculates the costs, not in moral terms, in operational ones. They will let him wake up every morning to a world that no longer answers his calls. This is not vengeance. This is interdiction. But beneath the surface, beneath the silk, the candlelight, the curated intimacy, another story unfolds, a quieter one, a colder one. It is a story of discipline, of compartmentalization, of an operative chosen not for rage or ideology, but for control, and of the terrible arithmetic that governs espionage, where every gain exacts a price, and every success leaves a residue that does not wash off. Identification begins the way all modern hunts begin, with patterns, transactions that recur like a bad habit, shell companies that bloom, flourish briefly, and vanish, cultural foundations that sponsor concerts by day and bankroll militants by night. Analysts follow the flow, They trace the movement of money across jurisdictions designed specifically to obscure it. Luxembourg, Cyprus, Vienna, Zurich. The trail is not hidden, it is disguised as legitimate complexity. Slowly, inevitably, the flow pools around a single name, an Iranian national with diplomatic cover, operating out of a European hub that prides itself on neutrality. A man whose schedule reads like a social calendar, but whose financial fingerprints appear everywhere violence later erupts. His network is an artery. Cut it, and the extremities wither. But access is the problem. He trusts no men. He distrusts force. He believes, correctly, that coercion leaves fingerprints. He believes in seduction, of ideas, of people, of rooms. He collects admirers the way others collect watches, not for function, but for confirmation. Each one tells him something about himself, his worth, his reach, his safety. So Mossad looks not for a hammer, but for a key, one that fits the lock he built himself. They find her in a file marked simply linguistic assets. She speaks Farsi with the cadence of Tehran's educated elite, French like a native, Italian with a lover's lilt. Her psychological profile reads like a paradox. Empathetic, yet detached, capable of warmth without surrender, able to listen deeply without leaving traces of herself behind. She has trained for years in emotional compartmentalization, the ability to feel without being felt. She understands glamour not as vanity, but as camouflage. She knows that attraction is not about beauty alone. It is about permission. Permission to speak, permission to trust, permission to underestimate. Her legend is constructed thread by thread. A background in international art dealing, a childhood split between Europe and the Middle East, financial records aged and salted with imperfections, social media seeded with plausible boredom. Handlers rehearse contingencies until repetition erases doubt. What if he tests her? What if he lies? What if he disappears? What if he accelerates intimacy? Access, costs, calculation, tension. Preparation is not cinematic, it is lonely. She practices smiles in a mirror, not to perfect them, but to empty them of truth. She memorizes his preferences, wine vintages, music, the cadence of flattery he favors. She learns his weaknesses, arrogance, nostalgia, the need to be seen as cultured rather than cruel. She is briefed on the massacres his money enabled, the buses, the cafes, the blood. Then she is told to set it aside. Revulsion is a liability. First contact is engineered at a charity gala, a cathedral of champagne and pretense. Strobe lights fracture faces into masks. The air smells of perfume, ambition, and impunity. She is introduced by a cutout financier who owes favors to no one he can name. Their eyes meet. Calculation recognizes calculation. He is intrigued. She is unthreatening. Access is granted in increments. Dinners follow, restaurants chosen for acoustics and discretion, private rooms where waiters know when not to hear. She listens more than she speaks. When she does speak, it is with calibrated curiosity. He boasts, he relaxes, he confides. Each detail is logged later in a handler's notebook. Names, routes, habits. Invisible arteries begin to glow on maps thousands of kilometers away. Weeks become months. Intimacy is cultivated, not rushed. The first extraction is small, a phone number glimpsed, a schedule overheard. Then larger, a laptop left unattended, passwords surrendered in a moment of vanity. Technical collection piggybacks on romance. A kiss becomes a key. A weekend trip becomes a corridor into his life. But beneath the surface, the operative bleeds privately. Nights alone are spent scrubbing herself of his touch. Handlers remind her of the stakes: buses, cafes, blood. Calculation steadies her hands. The operation stretches across seasons. Fashion weeks and diplomatic summits blur together. The target's circle expands, and so does the net. Secondary figures are identified: accountants, cultural attachés, logistics men who move money like weather. Disruption is planned like surgery. Then suspicion flickers. A question asked too carefully, a glance held too long. Tension spikes. But irony intervenes. His sanctuary, the intimacy he believes he controls, tightens into a cage. The shift comes quietly. Accounts are frozen through deniable channels.
A foundation is exposed. A shipment delayed, then seized. The network shudders. He rages at subordinates. He confides more deeply in her. Weaponized beauty absorbs the blow. The dinner, the one that will be remembered, unfolds in a private room overlooking a river. Candlelight turns faces into confessions. He drinks too much. He speaks of legacy. She guides him gently toward disclosures that confirm everything. Names, dates, a meeting scheduled days ahead. The final artery. As dessert arrives, handlers across the continent move. Warrants, leaks, interdictions. By morning, his accounts are ashes. Termination is anticlimactic. There is no arrest that night, no dramatic exit. He texts her days later, confused, diminished. Then the messages stop. His business collapses. His network is shredded. He becomes a cautionary tale whispered in corridors that once applauded him. The operative returns to anonymity. Debriefings are clinical. Commendations are quiet. Long-term effects are unspoken. She carries the weight of the arithmetic. What price for such intelligence? Espionage answers without apology. And sometimes the deadliest ambush begins with a smile.